The negative loop you're in ends today. If you've clicked on this video, you know what I'm talking about. This is the cycle that repeats itself, and you're aware that you have learned the lessons of why it is even in your life, yet another cycle has come. For another time it has repeated, and maybe part of yourself feels a little doubtful, a little angry, maybe a little frustrated. Why would I have to go through that again? Is it fair? I have overcome that. Why does it have to repeat? Why does it have to repeat? Why would that negative loop that you're going through, that you have learned the lessons for, you know why it's in your life, you have that awareness, and yet it continues to repeat? Why does it have to repeat? If you've asked that question, you're in the right place. Because in this video, you will find exactly why it repeats, and you will know what is asked of you to let that cycle inspire you instead of putting you in a place where you become critical, start judging yourself, doubt your own journey, and lose that trust in your own self that you have cultivated for such a long time. So if you've asked that, stay with me and let's see what comes through. Hey there, I am Daniel from the Higher Consciousness with Dani, and my reason for being here is simply to help you expand your awareness, step into higher consciousness, and fulfill your inner potential through these conversations that I have with you, self-reflection, and really looking within. Because it happens to all of us, doesn't it? Repeating the same cycles that we know we have overcome, and yet they come back into our lives. And I've struggled with that for such a long time in different aspects of life. It has been in career, it has been in overcoming destructive habits, and I found that it's not as simple as overcoming it once. In fact, there is a couple of deeper layers beyond, underneath that cycle that makes it seem as if it's repeating itself again and again. And a lot of time we think that we're repeating the same thing again and again, but I want to ask you something here. Is that truly the case? Or is there something that is unfolding in the background that we are a lot of times unaware of? Is it the same cycle, or is it another level of that cycle, another level of that negative loop that simply asks us to bring the awareness that we have already received from repeating it the last time and take ownership of already being aware why this pattern, why this cycle is here, taking ownership to make a new decision, a decision that comes from self-love, self-understanding, self-compassion, and patience, rather than one decision that comes from self-criticism, condemnation, judgment, shame, or even guilt. Why would you take a decision to drop that cycle, to stop that negative loop from low energy state of being, the state that this cycle puts you in when it repeats itself? So if we look at that as if we are looking at it through lens, as if we want to investigate it deeply, why would be the reason that this cycle repeats? What would be the reason that, again, you're passing through it? What I found from my personal experience is that it is simply an evolution. It's not here to torture you. It is here to show you the path of your evolution. And this is why it asks you for taking ownership. So if you've asked that question, why is this event happening again in my life? Attracting the same type of person that treats me badly, treating myself with disrespect, even in my inner attitude to myself, or repeating the same valet experience in my career where everything seemed to have been going so well, and then at some point it all dropped down and I'm starting all over again as if from the beginning. But it's not from the beginning, my friend. Whatever your cycle is, whatever your negative loop is, I want to ask you this question. What if you could take that awareness of why this cycle repeats, because I'm sure you already have that awareness. Take that awareness and take ownership of it to the point where you make a decision to stop that cycle in the moment you become aware of it from self-love instead of doing it from self-hatred or shame or guilt. What if this was what your life asks you of? And what if this simple decision could lead to an ever greater awareness of why this cycle repeats itself? Because I am telling you, it's not the same cycle. It's a spiral. If you have been unaware in the beginning, it's like it repeats, here it repeats again, here it repeats again, here it repeats again, here it repeats again. It starts repeating with greater frequency, and the awareness you have of it is expanded to the point where now, instead of judging yourself or being critical and then positioning yourself in a place where you're literally ashamed or feeling guilty, now you know that you're making a conscious choice, a decision to step into that pattern because it has something for you, because you want to get to know yourself better. Does this make sense? This simple shift of attitude. Because what if you could repeat that same pattern, that same cycle, from a 100% conscious decision rather than having to repeat it from feeling guilty or ashamed? What would that do? And isn't that the ownership that you could take? Because this has been my experience. And then once we start doing that, once we start having that loving attitude, that loving way of speaking to ourselves when we repeat such a pattern, what tends to happen is that the frequency with which you repeat it starts decreasing, because now you have not only learned your lesson, but you're willing to take ownership of what you have learned and apply it in that moment in time when life asks you to apply it. It's as if your experience from the past that has turned into wisdom, you take that experience, that wisdom, and you're able from that wisdom to speak to yourself in the moment you start repeating the same pattern, the same cycle, and you can drop it in that moment in time to not repeat it at all. Or if you decide to repeat it because it feels like it pulls you, then you can repeat it with as much awareness as you have, consciously, being present to it, to understand how it still benefits you. And the greater understanding you acquire of how it benefits you, well, then at some point it wouldn't make sense any longer. Because you only see the benefit it has provided for you, then you can use your discernment to choose something new whenever it arises again. If I had a reason to show this video, a message to share, it's simply the fact that it's not about this cycle, this pattern ending. It's not about hoping for that cycle, that pattern to end. It's about choosing it to end, because now you have made a choice for something different. And this is how you can stop attracting the same people that you have done, that you have attracted before. This is how you can stop self-sabotaging yourself in your career whenever things look like they're not working out. And this is how you can overcome a destructive habit with self-love. And you can even use that habit to reward yourself in moments of stress, for example, a conscious coping mechanism in a way. And this is a much more loving approach than having to shame yourself or guilt yourself. So yes, my message is simply don't expect this pattern, this cycle to end, because this is a way to torture yourself. Simply, if it comes, step into it with ownership, or decide not to step into it, again, with taking ownership of the lessons you have learned. This is my message. And I really hope that you have found it maybe insightful and maybe thought-provoking. And if that's the case, let me know in the comments. I would really love to have a conversation. I would enjoy that. Thank you so much for staying with me, and I will see you around in the channel in my next video. Bye bye for now. Enjoy your day.